Isn't this like the 7th time in the past 5 months that you've done a Q&A video? Are you just not running out of ideas or something like that?
I find it kind of funny to be told that I'm out of ideas by someone whose only idea was that haircut. Although I do think I know what you were going for. You were saying to yourself, maybe if my hair looks completely ridiculous, it will draw attention away from the fact that I have the face of a shiftless reprobate who would sell his own children to a roving band of well-endowed pedophiles for a nickel. I look into your eyes and I can see that your soul is like an abandoned oil derrick at the center of a shallow ocean of your unjustified sense of self-worth. If I was out of ideas, then doing these Q&A videos would be a terrible solution to the problem. Because this requires a lot more work than just coming up with one topic on my own and doing a 5 to 10 minute video about it. Because these, I have to tackle multiple subject matter, I have to do a lot more editing, I have to do a lot more shooting. They're actually a lot more labor intensive as far as YouTube videos go. The reason I do them is not because they're easy, because they're not easy. The reason I do them is because they seem fairly popular and they give me a chance to connect with my audience, which in the case of this particular gentleman isn't such a wonderful thing. I'm out of ideas? I bet that I could put a comprehensive list of every good idea you've ever had on a Tic Tac with a Sharpie. Okay? So don't fucking come at me, you out of ideas? When I first saw you, I knew that you were gonna be an asshole. And then when I heard you speak, I thought, no, he's not an asshole, he's more of a douchebag. But now that I reflect further, you're neither an asshole nor a douchebag, you're a whole bag of douche ass. Fuck your douchebag hair, fuck your asshole face, fuck your stupid question, and fuck you. Thanks for watching.
Hi TJ, I was just wondering, like, as an atheist, how do you think that it's okay to celebrate Christmas? If you could answer that question, that would be great.
Well, as an atheist, I don't have to worry about whether or not it's okay. I mean, a lot of theistic whiny babies like William Lane Craig talk about how atheism doesn't offer us any objective morality. It doesn't offer us a morality on which we can hang our little hats, that we can set our little moral watches by. And this is supposed to be an argument against atheism, as if, you know, what you'd prefer to believe and what is actually true are somehow joined at the hip. It's like, oh, you know, atheism doesn't offer objective morality, but our religion does because we have a God in the sky. Hey, you know, some atheists try to argue with that. My argument is, you're damn right we don't have objective morality. I've lived my entire life without objective morality. I have yet to kill someone. I have yet to burn down someone's house. I have yet to steal a car and, you know, crash it into an orphanage. I mean, I haven't done anything really bad, despite my total and utter lack of objective morality. Despite the fact that there's not going to be a God judging me when I arrive at the pearly gates. He's not going to open the book of my life and say, aha, yeah, I see what you did there. Not going to happen. So, why do I behave like a somewhat civilized human being? 1, I have a conscience. 2, there is a legal system in this country that ensures that I will get in trouble if I break the law. Now, I don't agree with all the laws that are on the books. I think some of them are pretty stupid, but hey, I'm still going to obey even those, at least, you know, to an extent. The point of this whole rant is that I don't need for it to be okay for me to celebrate Christmas. It's okay because I want it to be okay. I'm just doing to Christmas what the Christians did to it 2,000 years ago. I'm stealing it, just like they stole it from the pagans. I can say, hey, Christmas is now a secular holiday, just like they said, hey, Christmas is now a Christian holiday. even though the pagans originally came up with it. You know, just because some chick had her baby on December 25th, and she really didn't even have Jesus on December 25th, odds are that Jesus was born in the summertime, if he was born at all. But just because some chick had her baby ostensibly on the 25th does not mean that that's what I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating, you know, trees with lights on them, and presents, and Santa Claus, and reindeer, and annoying music that they play 2 months before the holiday even officially takes place. And I have fun at it. I like Christmas. I always have. I probably always will. And I like it without believing the best pregnancy story in history. I mean, let's think about this for a second. This woman gets pregnant. She tells her husband, "I've never even had sex." First of all, why wasn't she having sex with her husband? I mean, were they just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time? I don't know. Anyway, Joseph was apparently the village idiot because he actually believed this shit. And it's kind of funny because I just read a story not too long ago about this woman who had a baby, and it was black, even though her husband was white and she was white, and she claimed, "Oh, I must have got pregnant from that 3D porno I saw. There was a black actor in it, so obviously I got pregnant from that." And her husband's like, "Yeah, I believe you, baby. I believe you." And it was like this big news story because, you know, I mean, they couldn't say it outright in the article, but the news story, of course, is gullible idiot believes wife's obvious lie. And the same thing happened 2,000 years ago, but with far more drastic results.
Hey TJ, Stroman here. I was wondering if your dad ever really told you about his experiences in prison and what it was like for him. Was he in like solitary confinement or I don't know, what was it like for him? Thanks.
Yeah, my dad was found guilty of tax evasion and mail fraud and a few other charges, all white-collar charges. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. He served 3.5. He wasn't paroled. He found a program that enabled him to do less time. Now, because my father was in his 50s when he went to prison, he was one of the older guys there, and he was one of the few white guys there. I think there was only like 12 white dudes on his cell block. So he kind of ended up being this mediator because apparently a lot of black people, especially black people in the prison system, do not trust each other's word, but they will trust a white person. So he would basically mediate disputes between parties. He taught the GED classes in the prison, helping people get their GED. He taught them how to make resumes, to fill out job applications, to do job interviews, things like that. There was very nearly a prison riot over the cafeteria ceasing the sale of honey buns. And the way that he told the story was that he was in line waiting for his food, and someone who'd already been up to the front came up to someone who was standing next to him and said, "Hey, they ain't got no honey buns." And the guy next to my dad was like, "What you mean they ain't got no honey buns? You mean they out?" He's like, "No, they ain't serving them no more." And apparently over the course of the next several days, the prisoners came very close to staging a riot over the honey buns being removed from the cafeteria. I guess the prison officials, not wanting to deal with that, decided to relent and put honey buns back on the menu. They're once again available for the consumption of the inmates. So crisis averted. And the reason I like that story is because it shows that you can take people and remove their freedom and put them into confinement and tell them you can't leave this area and you must do exactly what we say at all times. And they're like, okay, I can deal with this. But then if you're like, we're going to take away your sugary treats, then they're like, oh, fuck no, riot time. So I like that story. The other story I like is he talked about one time, I mean, obviously the prison had a backup generator, but one time the power went out, and it took about 10 seconds for the backup generator to come back on. And in that 10 seconds, one guard that nobody liked was pelted with about 5 different objects from inmates who just immediately exploited the opportunity. And that's the story he used to explain why the guards are usually pretty nice to the inmates, because they know that they're outnumbered, and they know that if those inmates get a chance, they're not going to be nice.
Hi TJ, my question is, would you rather be hatefully remembered or completely forgotten? Thank you.
Well, this question might be predicated on something of a false premise, simply because I cannot think for the life of me of a person who is universally despised. Even when you think about like Hitler, there's people out there who just love Hitler, who think everything Hitler did was wonderful, and that history has just painted him with a bad brush, and he was actually a great guy. He was a great leader, great man. There's people out there who love Adolf Hitler and admire him. And this is probably the most hated historical figure of all time. So no matter how hated I am, there's always going to be a contingent of people who fucking adore me. History didn't give the amazing atheist a fair treatment. He was actually pretty fucking awesome. So even if I am hated, there's gonna be some people that love me, some people that adore me and go back and watch all of these videos and say, wow, what a brilliant guy, including this one. And if I am hated, then the people who love me will watch this video and say, see, he knew what was gonna happen. He knew that there would be people like me, true connoisseurs, true intellectuals who look past the veil of presented history and dig deeper to find the truth. So I guess I'd rather be hated, because I know there's always going to be someone who appreciates me.
Hi TJ, Miss Infidel here. My question for your video is, how have websites like Tumblr and Reddit and 4chan affected 1, the media, 2, the people, and 3, you personally? Thanks. Have a good one.
I don't think those websites have affected the mainstream media at all. I think the mainstream media is what it's always been. Something that panders to the lowest common denominator in the broadest sense possible. The media has always been about taking the pulse of the country, or taking the pulse of the town, or taking the pulse of some niche group, provided that the niche group is large enough, and then reporting what those people want to hear. That's always been the media. As for the effect of sites like Reddit and Tumblr on the people, I think that those websites pander to us far more than the mainstream media, because now we don't have to be a member of a specific large clique to get them to pay attention to us. Even if there's like 500 guys out there, chances are one of them's writing a newsletter and the other 499 are reading it. So you don't even have to have an opinion that's even remotely mainstream in order to be pandered to anymore. It's a good thing in a way, because it means that people are far more passionate and engaged about the things that they're exposed to because they chose what to be exposed to. But on the flip side, they're not really being challenged. They're not really being exposed to outsider points of view unless they choose to be. But then again, that fault was probably just as present, if not more so, with the mainstream media. And it still really hasn't been addressed. As for me personally, I don't exempt myself from what I just said about the people, because I am a person. I don't think that I, as an individual, can make a statement about humanity and then exempt myself and say, yes, that's how everyone else is, but not me, because I am a higher being of greater consciousness and greater awareness. No, I'm the same way. I go on the internet, I pursue my own interests relentlessly, and I pretty much ignore everything that doesn't immediately grab my attention and immediately fascinate me. That's just how I am. That's how 99.9% of humans are. I'm sure there are some exceptions, some people that say, well, I'm not interested in this, but I'm going to read about it anyway because maybe I'll find something to be interested in. But that's not most people.
Hey TJ, I was just wondering, what do you believe is President Obama's major flaw? Hope you answer. Zombie Bub, peace out.
Well, there's three competing narratives about Obama among liberals. I mean, the Republican narrative is like, he's a communist! So we can just ignore that entirely. It's fucking useless. The three competing narratives are, there's a group of liberals who view Obama as this president who really wanted to get stuff done and continues to want to get stuff done, but those damn obstructionist Republicans just won't let it happen. I discard that narrative because there have just been too many opportunities for Obama to stand his ground when he just didn't. He should have stood his ground on the public option because without it, his health insurance reforms make no sense. He should have stood his ground on hiking taxes on the rich because he'd stated numerous times that he believed that, it was a good idea to do so. And he should have stood his ground on the debt ceiling. He wanted to raise the debt ceiling. The Republicans ostensibly didn't want to raise the debt ceiling, and they wanted all sorts of concessions from him if they were going to allow him to do that. He should have called their fucking bluff. He should have said, all right, well, we won't raise it, and we'll go into default, and you Republicans can assume the blame for whatever happens, because you're the ones that won't fucking play ball. There's another narrative that says that Obama never really believed any of that shit from the start. He just said it to win the election, and then when he got in the White House, he just furthered the Bush agenda. And I haven't embraced this idea, but I have not discarded it. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Just like I'm on the fence about the third possibility, that Obama really does believe the stuff that he said to get elected. He really does believe it, or at least some of it. He at least believes the core of the values he espoused. But he's just really fucking weak. He's just a really weak guy. He really likes compromise, and he's not willing to stand up for the things he believes in. I think it's one of those two possibilities. I think the first possibility is pretty much completely discardable. It's not something we need to pay great attention to. So depending on which one of those possibilities is true, Obama's fatal flaw is either that he is a complete phony or a complete pussy.
Hey DJ, I had a question about your last video about Occupy Wall Street. A bunch of stuff, but in it you were saying pretty much how the first responsibility of the people protesting at Wall Street isn't, to be a janitor for the park. They're there protesting that a political message, which is all well and good, yeah. But how does that actually fit into any kind of functional law system? Do you think that if somebody has a political motive, they should be exempted from charges like, disorderly conduct, or fire marshal shouldn't seize generators, or health codes? Where does the line draw, and how does that fit in? What are the logistics? And is it, reasonable? I don't know. Just kind of interested for a response and clarification. Thanks.
Don't get me wrong, G.I. Joe. I'm not saying that protesters should be exempt from the law. I'm just saying that the First Amendment isn't worth the fucking parchment it's printed on, or written on by hand, I suppose, if you can just evict protesters at any time for violating any minor law. Like, oh, there's garbage, you're out. You can't fucking do that. I mean, maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm crazy, but I just feel like a local litter ordinance should take a backseat to the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Maybe I'm crazy. Should protesters be able to get away with more stuff than private individual citizens should? Yes, absolutely. Where do you draw the line? I don't know. I really don't. I wish I could give you a clear, definitive place to draw the line. But if you think about laws in our society, usually when we draw a rigid, inflexible line, we get it wrong. In fact, Always, when we do that, we get it wrong. The law has to be a little bit flexible. It can't be rigid, it can't be uncompromising, because then you're either on one side of the line or you're on the other. There needs to be a big gray area, there needs to be a huge gradient, and there needs to be places where you can stand where it's questionable whether or not what you're doing is legal. It should never be so definitive that you can just take a minor action and automatically that's just completely against the law and you're now going to be charged with a criminal offense. I think the Occupy protesters have not done anything that threatens the safety and security of New York City in any way, shape, or form. The New York City Police Department, on the other hand, they have. The cops in Oakland, they have. There are a bunch of wily, violent, crazy motherfuckers out there at these protests, and they're not the protesters, they're the cops. They're the ones that are pepper spraying old ladies, they're the ones that are arresting former police officers, they're the ones that are beating people, they're the ones that are pepper spraying innocent people, they're the ones that are arresting people for no reason. It's not the protesters doing this shit, it's the fucking police.
Hi TJ, I'm a huge fan. Got a question for you, try to keep it brief. Abraham Maslow is a psychologist who had this theory called the hierarchy of needs, which basically states that people will go for their most essential requirements for life, like food and lodgings and keeping warm, before they work on stuff like education, entertainment, relationships. My question for you is, do you think government should operate on this basis? Do you think that as a nation we should work on stuff like homelessness and income disparity before we worry about stuff like entertainment, education, and the sciences? Thanks.
Look, I'd be lying if I said I was intimately familiar with this hierarchy of needs, but it doesn't really seem like it holds up to me. I don't understand it completely. Maybe there's exemptions for the things I'm about to say. I'm not really sure. But to me, it seems like there are plenty of people out there living in tribal societies that still feel the need to create decorative art, to decorate their bodies, to practice religion, to do these things that are more than just food, clothing, and shelter. I mean, let's think about the Native Americans doing a fucking rain dance. I mean, they're suffering drought, and their solution is let's dance. They don't really think that's going to cause it to rain. I mean, maybe they do on some primitive level, but on a higher level, what they're really doing is distracting themselves from the fact that it's not fucking raining. So that's why I think it fails as a descriptive law. But what you're really asking is, should it be applied prescriptively to government? Should the government say, all right, we got to take care of this basic stuff, food, clothing, shelter, and then if there's time, if there's money, we'll worry about the rest. It doesn't place any emphasis on the value of knowledge, and I think we already place too little emphasis on that. I think the government should spend a lot more money on research and development. It should spend a lot more money on the sciences, a lot more money on innovation and discovery. Right now, we don't spend hardly anything on that. Most of what we spend are entitlement programs that have been under-regulated, or big costly wars overseas, a giant military budget where we just keep building new weapons that we don't need because no one could possibly fuck with us as things stand right now, and the people that can fuck with us are people that we cannot fight with conventional weapons in the first place. So yeah, I think that, you know, we're already spending money on too much of what most people would consider practical, you know, defense, entitlements, stuff like that, when we could probably be doing a lot better for ourselves if we actually invested in innovation. But it seems like right now the only science that our government is interested in investing any real money in, is killing people faster and in greater numbers. And that's kind of useless to us.
Hey TJ, I was just wondering, what is the most horrid and despicable form of torture you can think of? Something along the lines of pouring powdered glass into someone's eyeball, or pulling out their teeth, or even feeding them bits of flesh of their own family members. The more detail, the better, obviously.
The problem with a question like, what's the worst torture ever, is that every time you come up with a torture that might qualify, all you have to do is add a little bit more onto it, and it's worse. So, I mean, I could keep coming up with shit like, oh yeah, and then red ants are funneled into your eyes, and your eyes drip out of your skull like a squeezed melon, and then burning hot coat hangers are wrapped around your legs, and then your balls are dunked in boiling sulfuric acid while a burly German man shoves a live porcupine up your ass, and you can just keep adding and adding and adding, and unfortunately, you can just keep adding more and more stuff. So it'd take forever. You just have to get to a point where every part of your body was being tortured in the worst conceivable way. And by that time, would it even be a practical torture? There'd just be so much stuff all around you, happening to you. There wouldn't even be a way to get all that stuff happening at once. So I'm just going to go with a pithy answer, like the worst thing ever would be listening to Justin Bieber's entire discography in a loop for all eternity. Something like that. It's not the real answer, but it's a lot easier than trying to actually describe some horrible torture in explicit, almost pornographic detail. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. I'm about to sneeze. Hold on. It's going to be awesome. My sneezes are epic. Okay, it's not going to happen. Alright, I'm Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out.